live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Monday, the 26th of April. January, February, March, April. Yep. So, it seems like Shadowverse has got some kind of glitch at the moment where it goes, when you first launch it, to this default Shadowverse logo, but then if you exit back out to the main menu, then you have that crossover animation, which is a little weird. I've seen it on other games where if you like lose the data or something goes wrong, it will default back to the original load screen, whereas some games use these load screens as kind of advertisements, when arguably you don't need any of that, and it would just be nicer if the let's see, can we go to the main title? Yeah, this time. It yeah, seems to just be glitched. Yeah, arguably you don't need these kinds of screens. They only exist for consoles, and I'm not even sure consoles these days are really need to require them. The idea is that this should be an attract screen that no matter what, any scenario, no hard drive installed, RAM corrupted, whatever, possibly could keep a console running at all, you should be able to get to this point. No controller plugged in. But on PC, that really doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, there's not really a scenario where you need this to work. And it seems arbitrary, even on consoles, that you would need a screen like this to work. And sure, title screens might be an interesting advertisement. They've been completely supplanted with icons, which is the real advertisement, or store pages when you're buying a game. When I go to Steam's library, I click on the word Shadowverse. I see a top banner bar that advertises Shadowverse, and then I hit play. It would make a lot more sense to just immediately go here. Now, arguably, this is the screen that you would have when you don't have any network connection, but there's really no reason not to just immediately jump into the daily login rewards and pop up an error if you have a network problem, like it pops up errors otherwise. But yeah. So, over the weekend, we won 50 ranked matches as Havencraft, so we'll collect that and get another thing. The arena, I had qualified for the grand finale, but then the grand finale on the arena runs, which are now just missing because it's over, happen on the weekends. So you have to basically play on Saturday, and you, I think, have to play on Sunday too. Maybe you have Saturday and Sunday to play. So I didn't stream that. Now I can easily and quickly tell you I lost all three of them, and it was three challenges. A just like challenge, semi-final, and then final, and 2 losses, and you were out of the contention. But apparently you could play all 3 games, because I think I did play all 3 games even though I lost the first 2. And yeah, it didn't really reward me much. What did not happen is, as far as Flare, I don't think that there was any new Flare that we got here. See, here we have Liberation's Prelude, which is new, but we probably got that from something else. And I would think it would be something else that we would unlock. As far as a flare, yeah, I didn't unlock any flare. Now I did get a new emblem, character, and I don't know if that was a random new emblem character or if it was simply just a specific emblem character of the newest expansion, or just something special for making it to the end of the arena. It definitely didn't feel like it was a character that looked any different than any of the other emblem characters, and all of these emblem characters do look pretty much all the same and kind of boring. It may have been this one or this one, but neither one of those would make any sense specifically. I mean, it honestly could have been this one too, or this one, or this one. And these are just named characters. That one. I don't think so. And these are not in any kind of order or highlighted in any way that you would really understand. The only real difference is, like, if it is part of a crossover event, they do seem to be bundled together then. So it could have been that one. I seriously doubt it was one of these. So, yeah. That really did nothing. I didn't really mean for that to change. Either. Over the weekend, I've been powerhousing through pinball for the accountability section to try and finish Pinball Arcade. And I've been certainly watching a lot of pinball YouTube, and I feel like I'm gonna have to start considering the end game here, because I really only have about 7 more tables on Pinball FX3, Pinball Arcade to cover, and then I'm probably gonna spend one episode just looking at Pinball FX3 to spotlight it and say, okay, well, this is the first and only time I'm ever going to launch this this game, and that will be that, because Pinball FX is the reboot with the Unreal Engine, and it's questionable if all tables from Pinball FX3 and Pinball FX2 are going to transfer over to the Pinball FX reboot title. And see, when I get a card like this, I should look at it. But yeah, not really doing a lot with them. And since I got a legendary card, I get an emblem because of that. So what tables did I cover? Well, I can remember as far back as I covered the last 1998 pinball table in the curation of Pinball Arcade, which was Monster Bash, which is a fine table. It's got a lot of toys on it. It's got kind of a weird situation where you're having to accomplish a different mode for each of the universal monsters: Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Although arguably it kind of misses some creatures too that you would think about, as like the Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There's probably several others. The Mummy is on the table. Each one of those has a mission. You need to complete each of those missions to get an instrument, because they're forming a band, and that's how you unlock the ultimate mode. However, if you just start the missions, you'll collect each of the characters, and that will start a slightly easier ultimate, not so ultimate mode. And what I found as I was starting the easier mode 4 or 5 times as often, and I don't think I ever actually got all the instruments. Because it's one of those tables where if you have to actually finish the missions you start, and you don't just have to start them, and you don't have something just like a timer where if you keep the ball in play long enough, then that is considered finishing the missions. That there's basically a shot on the table, every single shot on the table you're gonna have to get good at, and that's just not as likely to happen. But since we got a premium, let's come back here and open another pack. So yeah, Monster Bash could be a little simple in its halfway point, and then kind of has a difficulty spike at the end. Now I believe it's between about 1999 and 2010 that the major death of pinball, which now we are post-death of pinball, but arguably it is just the zombie of pinball that we're in now, happened between 1999, I would say, and 2010. So you have 11 years there, which Stern makes a few tables, and they're not that good, and Stern is kind of greedy, and that their monopolistic power is not really motivating them highly to improve or lower the price, which arguably lowering the price of a pinball table is what really needs to happen. And that's something that I feel like we're not going to see happening in reality, because it's very, very labor intensive to potentially, so this one's new, build a pinball table. There is some weirdness with the massive amount of vibration that the pinball tables have, and how that breaks electronic circuits that otherwise would be fine. Even if you had them in like a server rack full of hard drives all spinning, those frequencies tend to be fairly predictable, and you can adjust for that a lot more than you seemingly can adjust for the random vibrations of having a pinball rolling on the table. Let's see. If we look at any bronze, any set, and go this way, is there any way to know? Is there an advanced option? No. Any bronze, any set. Starred. Oh, I guess we could star cards. And that would be the way to solve this problem. Is just cycle through this and spend a ridiculous amount of time looking for any bronzes that you maybe haven't crafted. Like, here's one. Yeah, I suppose that would be the way to do this. Is just look for bronzes and star it, and then look for silvers and star those if we haven't gotten all the stars on that. Theoretically, I should have all the bronzes in this collection. It's not like I even have a massive amount of vials, and that would be something that we'd start to see quickly run out of. And I only really am just trying to have one of each card for an art collection's sake, more than for any real reason to try and play these cards, because the vast majority of these cards I don't know how to play. I suppose since the arena tournament just ended, then there is room for new tournament previous winners to be updated. I don't think that happens fairly quickly. Anyways, I was talking about pinball. So yeah, after about Monster Bash, it's all Stern. Stern does a lot of shady things. It starts having the idea of limited editions and pro and premium editions, and then releasing table where the code is not anywhere close to being finished. And I'm gonna definitely have to go into a rant where I explain the difference between an alpha and a beta, and how the code in some Stern pinball tables when initially released are literally alphas, because there's actual features that are just not working, to the point that there's actually standing targets and shots that you make that don't seem to do anything on some tables. And then some of those tables that Stern released didn't sell that well, so I'm sure as the years have gone by, the small number of owners who own those tables probably don't feel particularly well supported. And it's not like there's going to be a massive hacker community that's going to mod the game code potentially and try and finish something. That would be such an incredible passion project on top of a passion project of already owning and maintaining a pinball table. You'd think that buying a new pinball table brand new from Stern would mean that you'd at least get a good 5 to 10 years out of the table without things breaking, and it's just seems like that's not the case. And that may not be Stern's fault as much as just that is the way of pinball, in that things are just constantly breaking, and it's just kind of an insane idea. And a lot of the techniques of making a PC or making embedded systems or trying to, well, I'm gonna quickly run out of stuff here at this rate. A lot of those techniques just don't seem like they work as well. It's much closer to the techniques that I'm not familiar with building a car. And so any technology as far as how to wire for cars and make sure those connections are good and they don't fall off, and how to make like an electric vehicle, those techniques are much more compatible with pinball than PC building. Like, there's still a massive amount of wiring. Stern still uses solder to wire for its connections because they say it works, it's mechanically more stable in the sense that it won't break off or in the same way as a circuit board might get broken. And I kind of can't disagree with them. Arguably, they might want to take their entire wiring a bundle and wrap it around rubber too. The thing that I think most should have happened, though, is as pinball was dying, as arcades were dying, that would have been the time for Stern to start owning percentages of arcades, or owning their own arcades, which is what Sega did in Japan, although in all fairness, Sega did just shut down its arcades in Japan also. But they making such expensive mechanical devices basically means you have to make a solution for it too. And if it's not owning your own arcades, it's making sure that there is a pinball or video game cabinet inside like every restaurant, bar, McDonald's. Like, clearly Stern should have dreamed up a agreement to have like an arcade machine in McDonald's, and instead the real crossover to something like that was McDonald's just put in Nintendo 64s, and now they don't really even have to do that much because of cell phones. But yeah, so there needed to just be an arcade cabinet in every corner, in the same way that there's a vending machine in every corner. Or they should have gone into business with slot machine makers and had supplemental income from making slot machines, and tried to convince some of the casinos out there to have arcades too, which a lot of casinos do have really tiny arcades, but they are not emphasized, certainly. And if you're gonna say pinball or video games are gambling, they are incredibly low stakes gambling compared to most slot machines. And so I imagine the income is considerably lower there. But without there being a place other than collectors' own basements to put pinball machines, you just can't make enough units to have an economy of scale. I watched a video which was a walkthrough through the Stern factory, and every day they're shifting between 2 or 3 different pinball tables that they're building, because they're making 1,000 or 2,000, maybe 3,000 or 4,000, maybe as I don't even think they ever, a single pinball table even had 10,000 units made. And these are big, heavy things that are far too close to what a car is than it should be. Okay. So how do we star things at this point? You would think that if there was a star button, it would be here. You would think you could see a star button also when playing the cards. See, I see vials. I see liquefy. I see crate. I see the image, and when we click on the image, we don't go on the full screen. Just like no stars. Can we star this? Yes. Okay, so it's just terrible. The system is terrible. You can't star cards you haven't created. Seemingly I have a lot of cards still to craft, and a lot more vials that need to be made. I don't know what happened there. It seems like maybe an expansion or 2 happened, and I did not make as much progress as I thought I had, because I thought I had made a much higher amount of progress to collect these cards. Either that, or I had a whole bunch of temporary cards and temporary cards disappeared, which I don't think is supposed to happen. Like, that's never been in the rules. So yeah, after playing Monster Bash, there was Stern's Star Trek Pinball Arcade game, which is the first of the new generation of Stern games based on the Star Trek reboot movies, which I didn't find particularly interesting. The table is also particularly boring as it has basically nothing there. It claims to have a massive amount of missions and modes, but playing it in trial mode, because I'm not really willing to buy the last 4 tables at the moment that they have available for purchase. So I could only play it for like 15 minutes before the trial ended. I played it a couple times. You can't make any progress towards the standard goals or wizard goals while playing it. So after a couple games and just saying, yeah, this looks kind of dull, it definitely felt like a table designed to be sold to Star Trek collectors and to be in Star Trek collectors' houses, and not a table designed to actually attract new people who maybe aren't interested in Star Trek, or new people who just don't know the different amounts of variety you can have on a pinball table. It's very, very dull. So yeah, after playing it a couple times, I decided to try out the challenges mode. That is about the only other thing besides just standard single play that you have to. We needed to jump into a game here. Let's see. 1 with Shadowcraft, 3 ranked or unranked, and then 4 with Swordcraft or Shadowcraft. Well, theoretically, I should replace this. Alright, so I could play a whole bunch of ranked and not try to get Shadowcraft, or I could just try Shadowcraft, which, if we're gonna do that, here's the Shadowcraft tournament card deck, as best as we can build it. So let's try that again, although I don't recall it working. So yeah, the tournaments are broken up in weird ways, and because so much, like over half of all the tables that once were available on Pinball Arcade are not available for purchase now. So basically you couldn't do any of the Season 1 through Season 6 challenges if you hadn't already bought the tables. You could maybe do the Stern Challenge, which is the only company that they have licenses with. And honestly, some of this may not be Pinball Arcade's fault so much, but Pinball Arcade does own some blame, certainly, in that it simply gave up and really stopped trying to get those old licenses once Williams Bailey and some of the other pinball companies put their licenses to Pinball FX. And it never really, even while it did have the licenses, managed to program things as nicely and as well as it should. And there's definitely glitches and bad interfaces and problems galore with Pinball Arcade. But if you do have the tables, you can play Season 1 through Season 6 challenges, or you can play Williams Gottlob per brand challenges. And an entire season's fairly long, or at least it immediately seems like it's fairly long. So I started, I believe, the Williams challenge, which had about, I'd say 6 or 7 tables that you were supposed to play, and you play them in order, and you start with 3 credits. I don't know if you get back any credits if you earn credits while playing the game, and you're given a goal, which the goal seems to basically be earn back the replay. So the replay value on a table may be earn 3 million points. So your goal is to earn at least 3 million points to move forward in 3 credits, which because of the way they ordered the tables, theoretically should be fairly easy for the first couple of tables, and then procedurally getting more and more difficult as they throw out more older tables or more difficult tables to play. So, and if you run out of all 3 credits, then you lose the game and have to start over from scratch.
Do not seek what is not there.
Let's see.
The uncharted desert awaits.
So yeah, I played several tables. I think the first one I played in the tournament was Tales of Arabian Nights, and then Circus Voltaire, I believe, and then Elvira Scared Stiff, and then after playing Elvira Scared Stiff, it had me play the Elvira and the Party Monsters table, which is a new older game, so more difficult, and I lost all 3 credits at that point, and it was only at that point that I actually understood the rules of the challenge, as it were, that it was a knockout tournament. And so it gives you some kind of Hall of Fame score that's never explained. I've been collecting Hall of Fame scores a lot up until this point, and it hasn't made any sense at that point either. So the Hall of Fame score seems to be only ever so slightly connected to the score you get on the table, and it seems to be a very reduced score compared to that. So 1 million might equal 1 Hall of Fame score. Pinball FX had a similar wizard score where it did a similar type of thing, but it was explained a lot better, and it made a lot more sense in general. So I got knocked out of the challenge, but by the time I had played those 4 or 5 tables and the Star Trek table that I was supposed to be highlighting, I also went back and played the Star Trek table a couple more times. And what I've been doing a lot lately while covering a specific table is getting nostalgic and going back and playing other older tables as comparisons. So it's not crazy for me to play 2 or 3 tables at the end just to compare layouts of these last few tables. So yeah, by the time I'd done all of that, it had probably been about 2 hours for one episode. After that, I played wow, I've probably played a lot of tables that I'm not remembering or thinking about, because I think there was a Cactus Canyon, I believe is the name of the table, that also was before Monster Bash, and I hate to say it, but that table is just downright racist. It really is. It's an old Western shootout at the OK Corral type table, and the table design has got a lot going for it, a lot of toys on that table, but they've just depicted it as you are the white savior in the Western, and you're fighting the Mexican hideously drawn characters. There's a little sexism in the back art too, in that they drew one of the bad guys as a girl, this bikini topped cowgirl with a whip. She's only drawn on the picture. She has no voice acting. She does not appear at all in the game. So that's kind of crazy. That you would draw something like that and then not really have a real use of it.
The uncharted desert awaits.
There are two other Western. There's a saloon waitress depicted who has no point in existing. There's a mayor who has no point in existing in the game, and then there's like 4 male bad guys that have no point in existing when it could really have been boiled down to just like 1 male bad guy and 1 female bad guy and 1 male hero that you would play as and 1 female hero. In fact, honestly, in 2021 you probably should be able to switch between the hero, male or female hero, and then whatever gender you don't pick, that's the character that always gets kidnapped or tied to the railroad tracks, because that's what happens in the game. There's a super easy multi-ball in the game, and it's too easy at that point. Some of the tables have started introducing this idea where you can get jackpots by shooting other shots, and so if you get like 5 different other ramp shots, you'll get a jackpot for each one of those, and then if you hit the main jackpot spot, then that will turn it into a double jackpot, a triple jackpot, a quadruple jackpot, super duper jackpot, whatever they call it, which that gets somewhat annoying when that becomes a wizard goal and you're then asked to emulate it. Let's see. If I play this, I'll get +1/+1. So I guess I want to do this.
You intend to bury me?
What do we have here?
Ow!
So yeah, after Cactus Canyon, which I think is the name of the table, and Monster Bash, and Star Trek, then there is a casino themed game that I can't even remember the name of it. I think it's called like Golden Casino or not, which all the tables are going to just be Stern at that point, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. Do I want to barrel right too? Do I want to deal 3 damage to everybody? Okay.
What do we have here?
Oh, come on!
Do this. Kill this.
Then, gentle ghost.
Best of luck to you.
And then reanimate 3. Sure.
Why would the dead need a living wage?
In return.
I interest you in reasonably priced souls.
Oh, I just lost. Screwed up terribly. I wasn't looking at my own life. So the problem with the casino table, as far as a pinball table, is while it does have a slot machine and a poker section and a craps and a high-low, it has like 6 different close to actual gambling elements on the table. It's unlikely that any one person would know how to play all those games. The roulette table has considerably fewer places where the pinball can land, but it does have a 000, some black numbers and some red numbers, which is close enough to simulate roulette. And the slot machine has considerably fewer things that you could actually match off of. The problem with the table is that the shots are just not that interesting or good, and it is just reminding you that you could actually be gambling if you wanted to be gambling. And it is just promoting the idea of gambling instead of playing pinball. Whereas in previous tables, when we've seen a pinball emulate billiards, it doesn't actually try to emulate billiards. It just takes that general theme as a rule set that people would understand and move forward. You don't really have that when you have 5 different casinos. It's another table where the main character really doesn't have any character or personality. There's really no narrative or story to it. It seems like you're just maybe a rich Texas oil baron playing at the casino, and there's nothing more to it. It's not like it has an Ocean's 13 type feel where you're trying to rob the bank or anything like that, or rob the casino. Where Safecracker kind of did have that theme, and Safecracker was only a few years earlier than Golden Casino. At least that's what I'm going to call it. It also doesn't feel like another narrative you might have tried is have the character do a Luigi's Mansion type gameplay where he's winning money from other casinos to build his own casino to beat the competition. It doesn't also have like a glorification of Las Vegas, which you kind of feel like that would be the next step, is that you would have a big pyramid and you'd have like magicians on billboards and shows, Cirque du Soleil shows. There's a showgirl in Golden Casino that gets maybe one line of dialogue. There's a blonde and a brunette on each side of the shoulders of the main character on the back glass. They're not characters at all. They never get any lines of dialogue. So it is just kind of there for that sexist reason or male gaze reason. And so they don't do anything with those ideas, which is irritating. Comes into play. Alright, so if I do this and bring this into play, will this do 2 damage?
You look kind of haunted. No, literally.
No, interesting. So Burial Rite seems to bring things into play, but it doesn't technically bring things into play. So yeah, Golden Casino not particularly that interesting. And immediately after that, a year or 2 later, Stern comes out with Ripley's Believe It or Not, which also has a slot machine for kind of no reason. And a lot of the layout of Ripley's Believe It or Not is just Whirlwind. They moved some things around a little bit, but it is kind of just Whirlwind. Ripley's does have an interesting variable force standing target pushback concept, which we've seen something kind of like that in Safecracker, but in Safecracker you had to hit the standing target 3 times to push it back far enough to sink a ball in the hole behind the blocker, the standing target that was blocking it. But in the case, let's see, Rush. Hitting that summons another Rush, which then I guess I could play that. So yeah, I kind of like the variable force hit. It does something slightly different, but you have to hit that shot quite a bit to start the continents. Each continent is a mode. There's about 12 of them. Each mode wants you to shoot a different target, of which there's about 8 or 9 shots on Ripley's when there probably should be just about 7. And that comes into play later, because if you don't finish the mode, then you won't ever get to the final game. If you don't finish every single continent, you won't be able to get to the Atlantis continent at the end, which is super hard. Also, there's always a goal to get one of 6 different super jackpots, which means you have to get a jackpot in one of the 6 different multi-balls that exist on the table. So you're just kind of constantly capable of having a multi-ball. So you have to get a jackpot on a different multi-ball. Then you have to shoot a ramp that you almost are never going to be able to hit with the top right flipper to get a super jackpot. But you have to get each of the 6 super jackpot awards. And it's just really overly complicated. There's a problem because instead of it being footage, which you would do in 2021 almost certainly, is you would just be showing footage of Ripley, if there's any that exist at all, showing presentations and oddities. You instead have this shrunken head that talks a lot more often, and then there's a like stone head Moa head that makes weird sounds on the table too. And the shrunken head really sounds like just I hate to say blackface in voice acting, but it kind of sounds like that. Like it definitely sounds like somebody from Harlem, an African American from Harlem, instead of speaking any kind of African tribal language, or even accurately sounding like somebody from Africa, which Africa's a big continent. I'm sure people sound very varied there, but I doubt any of them are basically talking jive. While I would still recommend people going to every Ripley's Believe It or Not museum they could go to, as their third choice of doing anything more entertaining or more educational, there is kind of a problem with what a Ripley's Believe It or Not concept is, in that it is just basically a freak show, and like the world's tallest man as depicted in Ripley's Believe It or Not museums is probably not the world's tallest man by their other companies' Guinness's World Records information, because I imagine they don't really update the museums that much. So, yeah.
Detestable. Detestable. I think you owe me an apology.
Hit that. So yeah, there's that issue with the museums themselves, but then the table it's also is not really going that far as actually talking about any oddities that might be interesting, which in 2021, once again, you bring out footage and you'd show off people. Inherently, Ripley's Believe It or Not and freak shows in general were maybe giving money to people with mental disabilities and physical deformities at best, but more likely exploiting people at worst, or promoting the idea of poor sharecroppers and poor people in general just either deforming themselves or scamming, or only becoming famous and rich by sheer chances of luck, instead of around the idea of actual skill or intelligence, or at least interesting opinions or perspectives. YouTube, in a weird way, if it is the new freak show, has very rarely been around the idea of highlighting freak show people and mentally disabled people that much.
I will protect my people.
Whereas at least the Twitch thoughts
Don't push
are
yourselves too hard.
promoted and highlighted for their physical beauty, and other Twitch streamers are highlighted because they actually seem to have an interesting opinion or a good skill at playing games. A lot of YouTubers, same thing. So we've potentially improved upon that idea,
Bury me.
and no longer are interested in just seeing people that are deformed. And those really aren't very feel-good feeling stories by modern standards.
Nature's sake.
But even if you set all that to the side, the angles and the shots are just too complicated and just not that fun on Ripley's. And that, I think, has caught me up. I don't think I've played any other tables. So that was about 4 or 5 tables. And we have about 7, so at this rate, I might be done by Wednesday, probably Friday, as far as all the pinball arcade tables. Which is great because I'm totally out of space and I keep having to shuffle and upload more footage because of the
May we walk hand in hand till death do us part.
right. It's evolved it to return, and then I should just end this. Yep. Yeah. I think it will be a project for another day. I need to, as I started this whole ramble an hour ago, I need to start looking at the end game and pulling back to playing regular video games, pinball. I think I'll keep several pinball things subscribed to on my YouTube channel, on my YouTube subscriptions, not my channel. And I'll see some things about pinball, but I feel like since it is Stern and a handful of other small independent game developers, that there really won't be that much that there really won't be that much new news happening. And so I will shift over. I think I need to play Psychonauts,
Go ahead and play for now.
and there's never gonna be a better time than now to play Resident Evil 4, I imagine. And yeah, there's still plenty of other games to play in general.
There is no escape from the apocalypse to come. The gods will know.
You're mean.
Okay. Can we win here? But yeah, I need to get back to just playing some regular games, and in particular not playing visual novels, which for a brief time there it was getting dangerously crazy as far as just I had played 2 visual novels and it had taken a lot of time. I also still have a ridiculous amount of scheduling that needs to happen. And since I took an hour talking there, then I pretty much need to go through my Twitter feed once again. And we need to start going through the video game news. I did leave games over. I left some games over the weekend as far as games coming out on Steam, which creates a weird situation in which when I look at the old games and start to go backwards, I don't know where to really stop. Hmm. So, yeah. Can we win? Yes, we can.
I don't have to win every time.
That was a long game, but it did win. And any victory should be taken as a miracle, pretty much. Yeah, the biggest news still is pretty much that Humble Bundle is getting rid of its sliders. Which, yeah. I'm thinking I'll probably decide to stop even listening, getting their emails pretty soon. I'm just slowly working my way towards the breakup, as it were, with Humble Bundle. Which isn't to say I wouldn't buy games from Humble Bundle. I just have to really evaluate it from a different perspective, because it certainly felt a lot nicer to be able to donate to a charity or donate directly to the owners than to just go to a third-party site and buy a game for Steam codes instead of just buying it directly on Steam. Particularly when Humble Bundles already had that slight problem of not really offering you what you wanted, but instead offering you bundles of several games that you may not be particularly interested in, or in my case I may have already owned. I did see someone talking about this game on Steam called Strangeland, which is coming out May 25th, and it does definitely feel like it's an H.R. Giger-esque, weird, dark point-and-click adventure, and I kind of love these, but they also have a tendency not to be as good as you hope. See, it's English full audio. I'll put it on the follow list. Let's go in this turn. Let's see. And see, particularly now, the goal is to get through all the video game news first that are listed on Steam, then get through the video game news. That doesn't make a full amount of sense, but if I don't get all the games covered today, then they will roll over to Wednesday, which probably still wouldn't be a big issue, as long as we kind of have rolling progress as far as games that came out. Here we have a game called The Mysterious Gallery, which seems to be what looks like famous paintings with hidden secrets behind them. But I have to wonder if there's maybe only 4 images. Yeah. It says 200 paintings. $6.99 third-party EULA. Well, I'm gonna put this on the follow list. I'd like to see if somebody reviews it.
I'm coming. Detestable.
That.
Detestable.
And then that.
Detestable. Detestable. What? Impossible.
Here we have a game on Steam called Survival Z, which looks like a cell phone game. I did notice that there seems to be a new drop-down on the Steam library that seems to try to explain Steam Link streaming a little bit more. This is $13.99 English full audio and several other languages. It is somewhat decently polished as a top-down shooter. But with a generic name like Survival Z, I just don't think there's enough here that would make me want to put that on the follow list. Plus, if anything, I've kind of gone through and burned out all of the zombie low effort games that I'd ever want to play, so I don't know if there's a good reason to go further down that path.
What do we have here?
Such a good guinea pig.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Magical Strings, which is tagged as a fighting game, but to me it feels like it's kind of all over the place as like a Chinese half visual novel, half fighting game. It's free, English, Chinese, and Spanish Latin America, which is an odd combination. But I imagine if you were going to try and make a fighting game, Spanish Latin America probably is a good language to try and embrace. Let's see.
Why would the dead need a living wage?
And
What do we have here?
attack.
I have all the work useless.
Let's see, here we have a game called Swan Chernobyl Unexplored, which has a lot of videos. I made some more tweaks to my network. I've been tweaking it still. Trying to get images to kind of instantly load. Not sure if I'm really succeeding in any of this. We're calling it a first-person puzzle horror game. There is something to this where this feels a little bit different than your standard like asset flip first-person shooter game. It's $11.24 English, Polish, Russian. I'm gonna put it on the follow list and see if somebody actually plays it. The problem there with a game like that though is it looks so much like so many other games that it could easily be ignored
Best of luck to you.
without being given a chance. Which in all fairness is kind of what I do to a lot of games. Next we have a game on Steam here called Abyss of Neptune, which is tagged as an action-adventure Metroidvania. I feel like we saw an announcement for this game 2 or 3 years ago. It definitely feels like it's very Bioshock influenced. It's free. Interesting. From the creators of the Book of Regrets, Syndic Arc Team teams up with this. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna put this on the follow list. As a free game, that makes a lot of sense. And then if we were to look at Syndicate Arc, there's this game called the Book of Regrets and Magic Strings that we just looked at. Interesting. How do you go from this in 2018 to something that looks way better? This might be a case where they're trying to get better, but it also might be a case that they're just trying to establish themselves. And so they had several games they're releasing, or they have several experiments that they were working on at the same time. Oops. I didn't play there. Like, the only other thing I could think, if you're gonna release Abyss of Neptune, which looks way good, and then Magical Strings, which doesn't look that good at the exact same time, I've never lobbied the accusation that somebody might be listing games they don't own, because that's something you can't really ever prove. What I suspect more likely is that this was just 2 different games in development, but why make them both free? The Abyss of Neptune must be really an asset flip horror game that only lasts like an hour, if that's the case. And see, that kind of sucks. And it's very possible that it was a different game I was thinking about. It was announced, and it's not that game. See, this one would have to fuse a bunch. 2 burial rights. Split equally. I guess we do this.
I'm coming for you.
Okay. I guess you do this.
Gentle goats,
And then I guess you do this. And kill that.
good guinea pig.
I just am screwing up terribly. I suppose what will happen is that eventually the next BioShock game will come out, and if it is of any interest at all, regardless of where it's set, it probably would suck any oxygen out of the room for something set underwater and a BioShock style visuals. That being said, there's really no reason for that, but if there was going to be a whole series of successful
May we walk hand in hand till death do us part.
if there was going to be a whole series of successful underwater themed horror games, that should have happened a long time ago, right after BioShock 1, and really it didn't. At minimum, it should have been like 4 years after BioShock 1. Somebody else should have been willing to say, hey, we like that aesthetic and we're going to steal that aesthetic. I totally could have won that game if I had been paying better attention. Next we have a game on Steam here called Unconventional Ragdoll Game, which obviously is just an asset flip piece of garbage for $11.69. We're gonna have to start going through the news. Unfortunately, I'm gonna run out of Steam games somehow. Here we have a game called Asteroid Blasters, which looks just like an Asteroids clone for $4.49 with a controller requirement, English only.
Father, come on.
Next we have a game on Steam called Czar, which is just an asset flip zombie survival game with low polygon images. $5.99, English only. Let's see. Maybe do that. Maybe get rid of that. This next game is tag nudity, so let me just make sure everything is YouTube family friendly or close enough. I think it is. Here we have a game called Aerophone. Discover the secrets of the beautiful girls in the world by using this mysterious app in your mobile phone, which it seems to be, if I was to guess, probably a photography game or a visual novel. It doesn't actually seem like it's a visual novel though. So, yeah, I don't know if you're just kind of browsing the phone or not. Like it doesn't seem to really have any obvious gameplay mechanic. Let me watch some of the trailers. Yeah, it is a photography groping game, basically. So yeah, you're taking photos and wearing down their strength by looking for weak spots and groping, but this time you're doing it with a camera and taking photos, which would never work in the real world. As wearing someone down by taking unwanted photos of them. It's a good way to get arrested, not to get someone interested in you. I almost thought that this game was just a mobile phone augmented reality app, but if that was the case, then it wouldn't really be on Steam, would it? It'd be on something, it'd be on a different servers.
I want to get it all back. You broke the curse?
You look kinda haunted. No, literally.
It is an interesting idea, certainly, though. Instead of just having your standard slide puzzle game, Aerophone, EROPHONE, is $2.99. It's Japanese full audio, English subtitles, several other languages. So yeah, just something I'd like to put on a poll list just to see if this is going to be the new style of gameplay design.
Aren't you popular?
Let's go hit this.
But make it fashion.
Because that would be more interesting than slide puzzles. Although arguably, since this is kind of the live 2D, the characters have to react type of animation, it probably isn't anywhere as easy as making a slide puzzle game. And I suppose the timer is reset as far as adult games on Steam.
Can I hunt you
Allegedly, Source Engine 2 is kinda out and available, and Gary's mod 2, which they're calling Sandbox, is in development and kinda out. All that I feel like is kinda at best, is what you could say.
Ladies and gentlefolks,
The things I do for fashion.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh, are you in need of medicine?
Sorry, I went quiet there. I need to hurry up. It's still a very weird scenario that we're in, as far as my insomnia. It's just like I'm starting at like 10 or 11 in the afternoon, and that's when I start to get a little bit sleepy. I think I may be past the point of actually napping right around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. But yeah, and my schedule's potentially gonna get messed up by a lot of random occurrences, so I may very easily miss a stream day in the next few weeks, or not have as much time as I'd like to pre-record footage. The musician's desk I bought, I don't know if I even mentioned it, in which I was putting the dual fight stick and pinball fight stick device. What is it called? It's called the At Games Legends Gamer. Yeah. Like the musician's table I got on sale for that. Arrived, I put it together without any real problems, and as such it is now sitting in front of me, which is now kind of boxing me in that I have kind of a crappy table to the left of me, and even crappier side table to the right of me, and then I have in front of me a musician's desk which has one tier where I really couldn't put much of anything on it, otherwise it would block my lower monitor, which definitely highlights an issue that I should have considered when putting one TV on top of another. But the table itself doesn't just by default block it, which that's good.
Open wide.
Let's see. See if we can evolve this and attack, and we couldn't. The keyboard drawer is just barely high enough at the moment so that I don't hit my leg on it shifting around, and I do now have like a footstool, which is kind of nice to have. But yeah, moving the keyboard in front of me really doesn't change too much. It might change a lot once I start actually trying to type and schedule things, but when playing games it really is just in the way, although I don't find it super visually distracting. And the next step was at some point I may get the adjustable up and down legs and use the wood from this table, which the wood's as good as any cheap desk's wood is, and use those legs, use the sit stand electric legs on the wood, since the sit stand electric legs don't come with a wooden topper. But that is a project certainly for another day, and I'll have to think about it, because without some major changes and tweaks, I would not be able to really sit or stand up. I need to be able to very slowly with a shock mount almost certainly move the table and the microphone upward as I'm standing, and that's not really in the cards at the moment.
Does this outfit make me look too
Okay, do I want to evolve and attack? Yes, I did. So I can bring down this. Of course, I can't evolve this. But yeah, theoretically, I would want to eventually put my third monitor on this table and the microphone on this desk, and have it all synchronized as one instead of being disconnected.
Go ahead and play for now, fairies. Let's play.
But I don't know if I am ever going to get that far. Okay. You do this. This can't be targeted or attacked, but it can't be evolved either.
There is no escape from the apocalypse to come.
So, theoretically, I could attack next turn and do 6. If this can't kill me in this turn, which there's a decent chance that they can't. And that means I can play this for Storm. Meanwhile, we have a game on Steam here called Line Art Jigsaw Puzzles, which is just both jigsaw puzzles and line art, and that's a terrible combination. You're going to have a massive amount of jigsaw puzzles that are just all black pieces. $1.39 English only. Really, really dumb idea. Let's see. Is there anything else we need to do? Hit that. And hit that. Next we have overlay balls and mouse tails, which looks like it is a desktop toy from the looks of it, more than an actual game. I feel like just for curation stance, Steam should be very, very restrictive as far as saying we need things to actually be games, not desktop toys. So if your game is not going to a full screen and is an overlay, it should not be allowed on our storefront, or at least you should make a heavy justification as to why it should be allowed. $1.99, whole bunch of languages. There's just this danger of Steam becoming the floodplain of all software, and without them having the right categories to adjust for that, that's going to potentially make Steam way worse to use than it even is now. Let's see, I think I still need at least one more victory of Shadowcraft, if not two, so we'll just stick with this. See, next we have a game on Steam called The Third Building, which looks like a Chinese horror game, but honestly it doesn't look that terrible. It's $12.79 English and Chinese, so why is it being reviewed poorly?
Yeah, I smell trouble.
Target sighted.
There's a whole bunch of Asian negative reviews. I almost wonder if this is touching on something that the Chinese government doesn't like. Game is based on true stories from the producer. I hope I can tell my story, but after all, the game is not reality. So weirdly, 69% positive. I don't see anything on this that looks bad. So I'm gonna have to put this on the follow list and hope somebody in English can actually review it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you actually can't really play the game in English. That is a long-running issue we have seen with some of the foreign games, is that they claim they can be played in English, but the interface is not really translated, or the language or dialogue's not really translated, so you just have no idea how to actually progress. Or it may have a translation, but the translation doesn't auto-detect the language, so you have this Chinese, in this case, user interface that you have to wander around to try to figure out how to turn it to English, if you even can.
Did I want gold again?
But yeah, as I'm watching the videos of The Third Building, it definitely... Worst accusation I could make is that it's a very highly polished asset flip horror game. There is also, I suppose, a idea around setting something in a more concrete style apartment complex, building complex, than that is more Asian inspired than the Western, this is a big creepy haunted house environment, or this is a big creepy hospital or prison or something like that. Yeah. The polish on The Third Building looks good. Alright, well, I put it on the follow list. I can't really do anything else. Next, we have a game on Steam called Purgatory Overkill. By the way, I did get the web peek enabled. Sorry about the last stream where I had it just in the wrong video mode and wasn't web peeking any of the games. This looks like it's a VR stand there, shoot tower defense type experience. Doesn't look terrible. It's early access, $11.99 English French. Put it on the follow list. Eventually we have to get to a VR game that actually is worth playing, of every kind of genre. Let's see. Well,
I
this, and do this, and then do this, and do that, I guess. Alright, let's start covering some of the news. Gamatsu has Knockout City coming to EA Play, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on day 1. It's due out on May 21st. This is the dodgeball game, if I recall correctly. Which, yeah, there might be something around the idea of a Splatoon-like dodgeball game, trying to be a little bit more kid-friendly. Although, arguably, I would almost say dodgeball isn't that kid-friendly. You can see there's a lot of streamers advertising it. Okay, so we can do this.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Hit that. Is that really what we want to do, though?
I want to get it all back.
Can hit that. And then we could play that.
Do not seek what is not there. You've been chosen.
What do we have here?
Feel like I'm about to get wrecked by a 9-card combination. So here's Knockout City on Steam. It's not out yet. Suppose I could put it on the fall list. One assumes there will be some single player elements here. This is EA pushing it, so also Knockout City may just be their replacement for Plants vs. Zombies. Yeah, it's not really saying whether it has single player or not. So it's going to be mostly multiplayer focused, and imagine that will be the end of my interest on it. So
Uncharted desert awaits.
and then we can do that,
Kinda haunted. No, literally. You've
and then
been
do
chosen.
that. Then just evolve here, and win.
Damage critical.
Let's see. Game of Citrus says Frostpunk has sold over 3 million copies in 3 years, which, okay, that's good numbers, I imagine. There we go. We got 3 ranked victories and a 2-win match streak. We may actually get all the daily quests done and get lucky today, and then I'll just end up talking about news. Let's see. Yeah, we are looking for one more Shadowcraft victory, so if we can pull that off, we're doing good. Let's see. Game of Sutra has this report. A leaked EA document shows how FIFA players are herded towards Ultimate Team, which Ultimate Team is the like microtransaction laden garbage of FIFA, which, yeah, no surprise that that's what they're trying to do, is get people to buy microtransactions and loot boxes. Even though EA pretends like it's not trying to do that and is under large amounts of scrutiny. Let's see, Gamatsu has Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC launching June 1st. We kind of already seen the announcement for this, I guess. It already is available on the Microsoft Store, or, well, no, I doubt it. It may be for the Xbox Series only. I really doubt, though, that Ghost and Goblins Resurrection is going to catch people's attention. I just don't think that's an interesting enough series in general. Let's see, Gamatsu has Dragon Quest Builders 2 coming to the Xbox One on May 4th. This is the game that's trying to compete with Minecraft, with the Dragon's Quest series behind it, and questions it's questionable whether that will really work or not.
You look kinda haunted. No, literally.
Let's see. Komatsu has Demon Slayer, Kimitsu no Yabai, Inokami Kaputan, Sabito, and Makomo trailers. So some more Dragon Slayer characters. I didn't realize there were this many Demon Slayer fighters in the Dragon Slayer universe, because every screenshot I'd seen had pretty much focused only on the main characters, which might just be an argument that the main characters are very popular. Let's see. Do I want to hold on to that? Kind of need to do something, so I think you do this.
Detestable. 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 Wasn't good enough.
Aren't you popular?
Let's see. Komatsu has Planet Coaster Console Edition DLC Ghostbusters and Studios Pack.
It's not there.
You can definitely see how these guys are not drawn to look like real humans.
End is near. Can I haunt you too?
And then Studios Pack just feels like a Universal Studios trailer pack. And this is all just for Planet Coaster, which arguably, if you wanted a roller coaster sim, yeah, kind of would want all of that stuff built into default and not bought via DLC. That seems excessive extra payment. And the way it's drawn, definitely doesn't look good. Planet Coaster definitely feels like a game specifically designed for
Uncharted desert awaits.
little kids too. Alright. Hit this. See if I can get a rush so I can hit that.
A fitting end.
Play that.
But make it fashion.
If we want to just evolve.
Lots of bones. But make it fashion.
Here we have a game on Steam called SCP Undead's Winter, which one of these SCP games would have to be more than just a low effort asset flip first person shooter or horror game before you could really believe that SCP might mean something as far as a series of games based on the SCP website that are good. Speaking of SCP, since Control basically stole that idea and then made it their own intellectual property with Control, Control on Steam can now only be bought in the Ultimate Edition. You can see that this game's developer also has not made any of the other SCP games, or games that have SCP in the name, so it's not like there's any coordination there. Let's see. Do this.
Did I want gold again?
And then do this. And then do that. I don't know if I should be evolving this guy, but whatever.
Get all back. Breach of contract, huh?
Let's see, next we have a game with some Asian letters called Caver, which looks like a cell phone game, card-based RPG. Yeah, doesn't seem like much. Early access, English not supported, Chinese only, $3.99. Yeah, I guess $3.99 is not asking a lot though. Next we have a game on Steam called Elixir of Life, which looks like an RPG Maker game. Notice that we haven't been seeing that many RPG Maker games lately. $5.59, English full audio, nothing there of interest. Apparently there's also on mobile phones.
Why would the dead need a living wage?
Okay. Is there anything I can do here to win? Nope. I'm getting wrecked. Let's see. The smartphone game Arc the Lad R is going to end service on June 30th in Japan after a 3-year run, which I think does kind of highlight that we are seeing the end of the first generation of attempts at Japanese cell phone games. Apparently, PC gaming has increased quite a bit in Japan over the last few years, but it might also be one of those surveys that the survey I saw. It might be one of the surveys that is including cell phones as PC gaming, and if that is the case, then that is a very different story. But yeah, I could see PC gaming increasing, particularly since I could see Japanese people getting smaller PCs or laptops and them being much smaller than they used to be. And I'm not sure I have seen anybody carry laptops with them anywhere in Japan, but it's not uncommon for somebody to have a briefcase or satchel, so there could be a laptop in there. Let's see, Gematsu has Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity shipments and digital sales topping 3.7 million, which, yeah, as a side game, that is a decent amount of sales over 3 years. Whereas Atelier Ryza has topped 360,000 over, which is above 150,000 since December 9th of 2020. Yeah, it was released on January 26th on Steam of 2021. So it had kind of a delay release on Steam. This is the first sales update since the Western release. So they seemingly over doubled their sales by selling in the West, which when you run all the rest of the world, all of the West, compared to selling just to the Asian markets of China and Japan and Korea and those type markets, it should be much higher than even double if there was an equal number of amount of interest. There just isn't an equal amount of interest for a lot of JRPG style games, and we haven't really seen anything that seems like it would change anybody's opinion on that. Even in the middle of this pandemic, when Western players would have a massive amount of free time, it seems like people are more interested in doing new things than sinking their teeth into a long-running JRPG. They're more interested in potentially going on Facebook or Reddit and getting upset with what's being posted there than they are tuning out. I think there's almost certainly in the pandemic times a lack of certainty and a lack of security that you would need to be able to lock into a long-running JRPG. And certainly I felt similar scenarios in my own life where I don't particularly want to start a long-running video game if I feel like my schedule's potentially going to be messed up or something along that line. If I just don't feel like I have that free time, even if I do have that free time, I need to feel like I would be in the right mood. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Rounded, which is just a physics marble rolling game for 89 cents, English and Turkish. It looks incredibly boring. I could go on a rant and make some baseless thoughts there, but I'll leave it at it just doesn't look that good.
Quit flying around everywhere.
Let's see, it's gone berry 1.
I interest you in reasonably priced clothes.
Then turn. Here we have a game on Steam called Pix Fizz, which looks like pixels in physics and doesn't actually look like a game. Early access $3.99, English only. Nothing there. Next we have a game on Steam called Bean, which is just a parkour swinging game of no polish. It's free, English only. Let's see. Do this. And do this, I
Are you in
suppose.
need of medicine?
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Fleeting Iris, which doesn't seem to be tagged as having any adult content, even though it looks like a poorly animated visual novel with a girl with fairly large bust. Although in this case, since they're covering up everything and there's really no cleavage on the main character, they may have censored whatever this was as a JRPG game. $17.99 English and Chinese. That would make some sense. It being Chinese, they tend not to go to the extremes.
Does this outfit make me look too?
But also that just immediately makes the game look even less appealing. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Rescue Team, which apparently is played in a tiny little window. And it looks like it's just an asset flip Halo clone, for lack of a better term. First-person shooter in some kind of military armor. $11.04 English only. Nothing there of interest. Here we have Bowsette, just called Bowsette. See, here you have a catch-22 of Nintendo, is that they once again can't really claim the name Bowser. They really can't claim the name Bowsette because they didn't create it. They never have drawn a Bowsette character. They don't want Bowsette as a concept, as a Rule 43 concept, a female Bowser because Bowser is wearing the princess crown. So they've got no foot to stand on as far as somebody else making a game like that. Now, what is this really? It looks like it's an adult asset flip beat up RPG game, of which I don't think there's a legitimate reason why anybody would be interested in it.
I'm coming. Detestable.
That,
Detestable.
and that,
Detestable.
that,
Detestable.
that,
Open wide.
and that. Yeah, half of these screenshots are blurred because there's definitely sex in this game for no reason. Bowsette getting attacked by random monsters and fighting random monsters that have just been asset flipped. So Bowsette itself is $6.29. It says it supports Japanese, English, and Chinese. It is rated mostly positive, 72% of 11 user reviews. Probably troll positive reviews if I was to guess. So I guess you could put a game like this on the fall list just to see if it ever gets taken down by an attempted DMCA claim or copyright claim or trademark claim by Nintendo. but also it's not really a game worth playing. Not by any means. Right, if we play this, we can't really do anything. So do this, and then do that. And then hit that. And then hit that. And then hit that.
Oh, my capsule.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called I Am a King, which looks like it is a strategy sim game. Which, in all fairness, some of the like Reigns games where you're swiping left and swiping right to act as the king is so visually boring compared to even this that this probably is a smarter way if you want a simulation of being a king. It's one of these resource management games that has that element in which people are fishing and mining and lumberjacking. It's $8.99 English and Russian, unfortunately, and there's not enough polish there to justify that price.
May we walk hand in hand to death do us part.
There we go. And end the turn.
Isn't love amazing?
See, next we have a game on Steam called Traffic Command, which seems like you're just controlling the red and the green lights on intersections as puzzles. I don't think that's particularly interesting. $4.79 English only. Definitely looks like a cell phone game.
Such a lovely couple.
You need more energy.
This guy's regaining his health. Okay. See.
Why
Can
would
do
the
that.
dead need a living wage?
We can do that.
Are you in need of medicine?
We can do that. Do we want to evolve some people?
My, you leave me no choice.
I have all the work.
Can we get enough damage here to win?
What potential?
Next, we have a game on Steam called Symbiotic Dungeon, which looks like you play as a robot in a top-down dungeon type game, roguelike game. It's free, English only, full audio allegedly. Nothing there of interest.
It seems like loss.
I'll destroy you all.
I will fulfill my vow.
Cave in.
Alright, what happens when this guy dies? 2 damage to the enemy leader.
What did I want gold again?
Want to play?
Go ahead and hit this,
My dreams are what kept me alive. I want to get it all back.
that,
Please don't throw me away.
and that. Still think I'm gonna lose here. Next, we have a game on Steam called Move Forward, which looks just like a frustration platformer where you play as a cube for $4.99, English only.
You will atone for wasting my time.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called DVX Rebirth of Horror, which looks like it's a frustration platformer with some horror elements to it too. But yeah, I don't really think there's too much going on here that would make me interested in it. First chapter in a series of platforming horror games for free. Yeah, and I don't like that as an idea at all. Serialized platformers or serialized horror games. Guess we have to do this, and unless we magically do something there, we've probably lost.
Perhaps you're who I've been waiting for.
Here we have
Will atone for wasting my time.
Firelight Fantasy Phoenix Crew, which looks like a player versus player medieval sword and slasher. Early access $5.09. Single player only. Third person sword fighting game. Is there a reason why I would play this? No, I don't think this heads up display is that good, and I just am not chomping at the bit ever to play a medieval sword fighting game. Let's see, next game is tagged with nudity and sexual content. So let me see if I can show some things off. Well, yeah, I think we can. Happy puzzle. I may be getting particularly lenient these days as far as what is YouTube family friendly or not, and YouTube doesn't seem to really care either. So you've got some anime girls, and then the actual game seems to just boil down to some very low effort puzzles, and then you have a completely different anime style here and there for some kind of visual novel type elements, which makes me really think that this is probably the mix match of several different contents. If anything, it seems like the CGs of the more realistic anime girls are the extremely rare variant of images you'll see, and the actual game is the lower effort chibi style. This is English and Chinese as far as the language, and they're selling it for $1.49. Oh, Nutaku, by the way, is also coming out with a Brazzers game. So, yep. I guess the idea or meme or joke there that why don't they just make a Brazzers themed adult video game has finally been committed to. Also, the law firm that sued Pornhub and drastically forced Pornhub into changing how it did business is now suing Reddit, which is a little bit more weird because I seriously doubt that's going to affect the vast majority of Reddit subreddits, and it's going to really ruin the adult subreddits, like the Girls Gone Wild style subreddits where random users are just posting pictures of themselves. Those are very small niche Reddits with very few, relatively speaking, users, but yeah, those communities may very well just be utterly destroyed. Or it may not affect anything at all because Reddit may just be able to say verify your age as far as this, as far as posts go. Which arguably that's the same thing Pornhub could have done, and maybe that is what they're doing now. Moving on back to video games though, here we have a game called Manipulator 1, The Hand Behind, which looks like kind of an ugly space game in VR. $19.99, English and Chinese. We're still getting a massive amount of Chinese games, for better or worse. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit that, I suppose.
Lots of balls, but make it fashion.
Hit that and hit that.
Throw around everywhere.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Angry Squirrels. I'm still trying to go through all the games. This is a frustration platforming game where you play as squirrels, which that's slightly different. 59 cents, English only. Still not something I'd ever want to actually play. Next, we have a game called Gravity Snake, which just seems to be where you play as a worm or a snake trying to play the game Snake. The only difference is that there is actually gravity. It's free, English only, and has this developer put some other garbage games on Steam? Yes, he has. Yep. Okay. 4 ghosts. Probably the safest thing to do. Then that. Then that. And that. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Movie Actor Trivia, which, yeah, it's just a trivia game. Looks like a mobile game. 89 cents, English only. Nothing there of interest. See, next we have a game called Game Company Simulator Back to 2000, which just looks like a Chinese game and looks very weird on top of that. But all these simulator games are still not very interesting to me. $4.49, English and Chinese. Yep. Not an ounce of surprise in any of that design.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Okay. Okay. Can we then
I'm ready for more.
do that?
What do we have here?
Next, we have a game on Steam called Wild World, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter. And it's kind of got this pixely art graphic style, which is a little interesting. I'm not sure it really works for a top-down twin-stick shooter. But otherwise, it just kind of looks like a twin-stick shooter, and still, that's too boring. 59 cents, English full audio.
Our journey is just beginning.
See. If I could pull this out, I'll be shocked. See. Do this here. And then do a rush.
Oh, are you in need of medicine?
Alright. Hit that. I guess if I can survive one more turn.
In my power.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Keep Looking, which looks like it is a match 2 game. They're saying it's a point and click game, which I guess technically that might be an accurate description, but seems wrong. $29.99 Chinese only. That at that point it's just money laundering more than a reasonable price. We're still not doing horrible with this tournament deck. even if we're not winning every time. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Junk: The Legend of Junichi Kato, which, while you could call this a frustration platformer, actually I think this is much more a traditional clone of something like Super Mario Brothers, which we really don't have a lot of that. So I have to give this a little bit more time to think about. $6.99 is a fairly odd price tag. English and Japanese. Yeah, this has to be on the follow list just to see if people come back and say it's actually good. It could also be that it has just like 1 or 2 castles and that's it, and they're all very frustration difficult castles. Which, in all fairness, I'm not sure that if I tried to play Super Mario World, a game I don't think I ever actually played, I would be able to make it all the way through to the end. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if I got fairly bored with it. And that's probably true with like Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario Bros. 1 too, is that by modern standards it just may not be interesting enough to me. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called The Depths, which looks to me like it's just asset flip maze game with nothing else there. $1.99 English only. I've got 3 animated of the same card.
You'll find gizmos like this every millennium.
And then we have a game on Steam called Nightfall, which looks like it is maybe a werewolf RPG sim. Or werewolf style gameplay. Multiplayer is focused here, free to play with some DLC, online PvP only. So yeah, it's just not the kind of game I'd play. And see, that eliminates a lot of the games on Steam, so let's go back and start covering some of the news again. This could come into play. But this could do a burial, right? Let's put that into play.
No, literally.
Let's see. Gamatsu has a crowdfunding campaign has been launched for the PS4 and Switch versions of a rock and roll visual novel called Musicus, which I think you could easily misread as mucus. I don't know if I really want to watch any of the trailers here. Let's see. It's a brief 43-second trailer, which seems to just be animations and panning animations of rocking out. Doesn't seem like there's much else going on. Right. I can hit this.
I'm coming for
And then go
detestable.
1,
Detestable.
2, and
Detestable.
3. And then I can
Are you
hit
popular?
that
Master. Detestable.
and hit that. Here we have a game on Steam called Greedy Goblins. Sorry, I went quiet again there. Man, I'm really just pausing more and more. I just get distracted and reading. And, I should have gotten better at this, not worse at this. Inherently, the problem, of course, is if I'm talking off the cuff of my, off the top of my head, that works fine. But the second I need to think about anything or read, I need to take a break. And regular news producers would have a second host to jump in with a different story as the other person was
Detestable.
reading, taking a break, or thinking. to pick up the gaps in the conversation. But yeah, that is also something that I was thinking about, is that I generally, and this is probably a bad thing, never think about what I'm about to say. And certainly that does mean that I will, in general conversation, spout off a joke or go into a conversation that I genuinely don't really care if the other person is interested or not. I'm just kind of rambling to myself about the same thing, which makes me a good orator, I imagine, and a terrible conversationalist. I imagine that's the right words. But also, I've found that a lot of people are just boring in general, or maybe people in general just don't want to talk to other people. So if I don't fill the dead air with conversation, it will just hang. And I've really not been able to find somebody who's actually passionate or interested in anything, which is a long way to go about to say that I've run into a lot of dullards in life, and it kind of sucks. And that's why I always appreciate when there is somebody, even on YouTube, that you may get 10, 20 views and nobody bothers to jump on the chat. But when somebody does bother to jump on the chat, they usually have something to say, or at the very least they're jumping onto the chat to be nice and just say hi, which is appreciated also. Whereas everybody that's not jumping on the chat, I imagine, just doesn't have anything to say or they're busy. And I appreciate the views too. But yeah. In theory, I should work on having like thinking about what I'm saying before it leaves my lips, but in reality that's just not how I think my brain is wired, and it just doesn't work. Like, the only time I ever think about what I would say is that whole winning an argument in a shower that happened months earlier, like thoughts, and that doesn't ever really happen. Let's see, moving on, we have a game on Steam here called The Greedy Goblin, and this feels more like a student project than a final idea, but there's something here I kind of want to give it a chance since it's free. English only. Like, it does seem like there aren't any enemies and you're just this goblin wandering around trying to find all the coins, so it's kind of like a 3D platformer concept. And so, yeah, I'm gonna put it on the follow list. Almost certainly I'm gonna regret that later and wonder why I bothered to ever have that on the follow list. Let's see, do that to draw 2 cards.
Feel the emptiness.
And then, do we want to do that now? Probably.
Are you in need of medicine?
Let's see. State of Play featuring Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and 2 indie titles has been set for April 29th. So, yeah. That may have... No, that's going to happen in a couple days. Gamatsu has Zhuan Yun Sword 8 for the PS4 and Xbox One launching this summer in the West. Which... this definitely looks like a Chinese game. Doesn't look particularly bad though as a game. It actually looks very good. See, there was that game Heavenly Sword, and this feels a lot like that. And so there might really be, if all the Chinese games look like this and potentially played like this trailer seems to indicate they play. I think the Zhang Yun sword in particular might be a series to check back on and try out. Okay. If I bring this to the field,
What did I want again?
it doesn't activate its effects. Nope. TechRaptor has kind of the same article. EA is funneling players toward loot boxes in FIFA, leaked documents say. Which, okay. But you'd be kind of a sucker to play FIFA and not realize that it's totally pay to win and not something you really should play. A 3D platformer called Babel, The Walking Box, has been announced for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, due out June 26th, according to Gamatsu. Yeah, it kind of feels like probably what they should have done with Crash Bandicoot. It looks like a Crash Bandicoot character. It totally looks like a Crash Bandicoot game. But, yeah. Without the backward angle of Crash Bandicoot, which that's something that I feel like they never really fixed.
Ladies and gentlemen, follow me.
Alright.
Oh, quit flying around everywhere.
Son of a gun, ain't ya?
In return. So yeah. Here's its Steam page. Some backward perspective, sideward perspective, some boss fights. All very Crash Bandicoot-y. I think that deserves to be on the follow list. Although, oddly, they're comparing it to Yooka-Laylee, which is weird because I'm fairly certain Crash Bandicoot did come out. Balan Wonderworld never got well received. They're comparing it to New Super Lucky's Tale, which is very positive. Seriously, is Crash Bandicoot not on Steam? Giant skull.
Does this outfit make me look too old?
And then in the turn, I suppose. So hit that twice. I have to go somewhere different now to. Yeah. The Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is on Steam though. And it's on my wish list. It's selling for $39.99. So weird that you'd have a game that looks so much like Crash Bandicoot and yet the recommendation engine really does not seem to overlap well enough to figure that out. Right. Do we want to kill something here? I think we do. We want to hit that.
The future is only the beginning.
And then guess maybe we play that.
Do not seek what is not there.
And then do we want to attack here? And here.
For the end is you've been chosen. I'm out of cash.
See. If you have more evolution points than your opponent, gain an empty play point orb.
Maybe an end.
So I did gain a play point orb. Nice. Tech Raptor has Succubus's release date being announced and a new demo available. Interesting that they're showing this kind of theme because they can't really show you most of Succubus. It's supposed to come out July 21st, 2021. This is the developer Madhead Studios, I believe, of Mad Mind Studios. I never got that name right. The maker of Agony, which was a pretty bad game. You can see here this video is age restricted, and thus I don't even know why they're bothering to embed videos. It really just goes to show that that content creators and news reporters have not realized that you can't see these videos when they're embedded like this. If they're adult content, or at least I can't find a way to see that content without going directly to the website, which I guess for news journalism's sake alone. It might be that my ad blocker is blocking some kind of cookie. Well, the nipples on Succubus that are being shown are blurred, even are being blurred anyways. She just walked out of a pool of blood and she's holding the camera like a YouTuber and talking directly to the camera. And now it's jumping through some different variations in which your character or other characters can be depicted, so they can change their body type and skin color apparently, and apparently you can change the your kind of throne. And it says there's 21 levels, so it's not, I think, going to be so much a open world as it is potentially going to be a collection of maybe Doom-like levels. And there seems to be different kinds of weapons, so weapon upgrades in this kind of fight. I don't think that there's any thought here for like a player versus player. There, I've done all the news in less than 2.5 hours, or I've done all the missions, which honestly, now it's showing kind of orgies happening between the succubus and demons and sex scenes, so that definitely is a focus too. This whole video she's been completely naked, so topless and bottomless, but they really haven't been showing that camera angle of the bottom much, but it's also blurred. Okay. And for some reason, it's decided to autoplay into one of my YouTube videos immediately after that. Which, okay, that's weird. Succubus is one of those games that once again becomes a bit of a problem, in that you really could I really could never cover it. So it almost comes down to, hey, do you want to see less footage of me but have me talk about adult games? Then gift me Succubus, or and then I would play it. Same is true for Agony, but there's just kind of no way I could play that game. I do have blurring technology, so theoretically I could make footage of it blurred and maybe make it YouTube family friendly, but I don't see how that would really fly. Let's do some of the single player concept. I guess we'll have to try with discard deck. Yeah, I don't see how that would really fly with YouTube, nor do I see how that would make a very interesting content. I pretty much would have to be describing the visuals anyways. So it only kind of makes sense for me to play a game like Agony or Succubus, and Agony wasn't even good, is if there was some kind of switch toggle or mod to just put clothes on people. Which, even if I could just put my logo over everybody by changing the game textures, that would work very nicely, but there's no easy way to do that. Like, because all of the content and stuff like that is usually encrypted into the game code. So it's not something as easy as here's a 3D texture map, change it to a logo. And even if that was the case, then that still probably wouldn't be family friendly enough for YouTube.
I won't stop singing until there's world peace.
Let's see, moving on, Respawn and Oculus have won the Academy Award for Medal of Honor short documentary called Colette, which I haven't even heard about this one, but whatever. I also don't know if I really give any credibility or authority to the Academy Awards, nor do I really think video game developers should be out there trying to make documentaries or win awards. See, this card, this, and play this. Gain the ability to evolve for free.
As my guitar gently beats.
Let's see. Checkraptor has a next Animal Crossing update. Brings Mayday Madness and more.
I can't sing another
Which,
note.
yeah, okay. Read that article if you're interested in that. Gamma Sutra says Frostpunk has sold over 3 million copies in 3 years. I think we may have already talked about that. Open Critic has an article. Respawn is working on multiple projects, including a new IP. Which, okay. That's cool and all, but not really any information. You have more points than that. Do that.
You get on my nerve.
Hit that. Give me that play point orb. Get that and that.
Newest water.
Checkraptor has an opinion piece. Has the age of real-time strategy gone by?
A dance to make the world blue.
Which arguably I would have said yes a long time ago, frankly. I think it would be fairly weird to say that real-time strategy is still a thing.
Foul forces of darkness, bow before my
All must come to an end.
Do we want to evolve some more?
wind, grant them courage.
See, Gematsu has Xbox Live free games for May being announced, so for Xbox One, it's Armorello and Dungeons 3. For Xbox 360, it's Lego Batman and Tropico 4. Okay. To that.
Magic is a sound.
I could have just won. It's not really saying anything, though, that I can beat a single player game.
Told you you can't beat me.
Let's see. According to Gametsu, a game called Scavenger launches in early access on PC April 28th. Scavengers. Yeah, looks like it might be good, but it also looks like it might just be a zombie first-person shooter game in the snow, which maybe that is just enough to make it unique enough with the running and parkouring elements too. Let's go and skip all the dialogue because we don't want to spoil the story. Eventually I'll make a video going on the story. Although in all fairness, I don't even know if I'm labeling those videos as story videos because I'm just being so lazy about scheduling. And I imagine that yeah, that's all I could have done. So we're waiting for more of this story to be added. And it's still worth mentioning, I think, that the Fate's Trigger conclusion storyline didn't really go anywhere or do anything, so we killed off a character or made it look like a character died for kind of no reason. Which then I guess that means we just play rotation ranked, and that means we should be playing tournament wins. TechRaptor has an article here. Friday Night Funking's Kickstarters is going strong. Which, okay.
A dazzling victory awaits.
Time to get started.
Which I don't generally like to talk about Kickstarter games. If anything, Kickstarter has pretty much also gone the way of the dinosaur. You very rarely hear anything about people starting Kickstarters. Now all the scammers are going for like cryptocurrency and NFTs instead of even having a pitch. Fig also did not really succeed at replacing Kickstarter. Just nothing replaced Kickstarter because Kickstarter as an idea should have never really existed. TechRaptor has a King of Wars Armada baseline guide. I have no idea why you would want to play this game. It's a board game too. That's why I haven't heard of it. So yeah. This is fairly big news. People Can Fly has acquired Phosphor Studios and renamed them People Can Fly Chicago. People Can Fly, I believe, is the people who made they made Bulletstorm, and then they used Gearbox to release and publish Bulletstorm. And now they apparently are working on a game for Square Enix, which is in an original action-adventure title for Take-Two Interactive. Which, okay. So that really doesn't say a lot as far as either games, what they actually could be working on. Could be almost anything. See, Gametsu, the Cotton Reboot update to add playable characters, Applique, and Needle, which Cotton, as a side-scrolling shooter, it does seem to be very popular. See, Cotton Guardian Force Saturn Tribute is announced for the PS4 and Switch, so this is another Cotton game. So there must have been an announcement. Death Smiles 1 and 2 for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch launches December 16th in Japan. This is also, I think, a shoot 'em up. Yep. Series, even though this doesn't really look like that's what that would be. I would have definitely guessed it was a
There is not a soul
visual
without
novel.
sin.
My blade is your salvation.
Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent. Let judgment fall.
Let's, I guess, hit that guy.
Splendid brutality.
And then play this. And then end the turn. Let's see. Gematsu has this week's Japanese game releases of Returnal, new Pokemon Snap, R-Type Final 2, and more. Let's see. Grisaia Phantom 01 to 05 for the Switch. Then a whole bunch of games digitally, which this may be an indication that we're going to see a lot more releases as digital only in Japan, where I feel like that market would probably still want physical a lot more, but the pandemic may have just forced everybody to go digital. Alright, well, do this.
Good draw.
Let's see. Gematsu has Capcom Arcade Stadium for PS4, Xbox One, and PC launching May 25th, which looks like it's a combination of old Capcom games, but they are real Capcom games, even though a lot of the art seems to imply that they would be parodies of old Capcom games. This probably is a slightly decent bundle for a few games, and then you're going to get a lot of games that aren't really interesting, and it will come down to simply the price, and the price will probably be the killer part of it. So do this, and if I play that, nothing else will happen.
Today we'll lift some heavy scriptures.
Well, actually, let's do this first.
A fair a day keeps the doctor away.
Wings of light, show your might.
Put your legs into each prayer.
Okay.
Back straight, eyes forward.
Another pointless path.
See, TechRep has an article here. Near replicant PS5 share tweets are being blocked by Sony. Apparently, the number itself is being flagged as profanity, where I can't imagine how this number would be profane. That seems crazy. Which once again does seem to highlight PlayStation 5 not having their ducks in order. I don't know what I was about to say there. Sounded like I had something dirty to say, but I assure you I didn't have a good idea for a dirty joke.
Pointless path.
Hmm. Yeah, but I also kind of wonder
I am a prisoner of
if
this
there's a
world's
large
chains.
amount of people even playing Nier Replicant on PS4, PS5, or if they've already moved to either PlayStation or PC.
Today is your lucky day, my friend.
See, next we have a game on Steam here called Soul Dorado Heist, which looks like it's a visual novel game. Looks like it's an interesting idea of having like a casino based on El Dorado, and then having some wild looking characters because of that. It's $4.24, English, Spanish, Latin America. Let's put that on the follow list and see if people like it. I imagine there's a decent chance people don't.
Pointless path.
Let's see, this would do 4 damage, but not save me. This would do 2 damage.
I'm already a proper lady, you know. Please, no more.
I have a whole bunch of games, and I wanted to get really into the games, but also I just think we're gonna have leftover games at this point. See, Game of Sutra has an article here. Gearbox is pushing back against the discriminatory Texas bills. Texas-based Gearbox Entertainment has voiced its opposition to Texas House Bill 4042, cautioning lawmakers that discriminatory legislation prevents companies like Gearbox from hiring the best and the brightest. The legislation in question is an anti-trans bill, which it's a little surprising that Gearbox, being based in Texas, would take a stand there. If this was passed, it would bar transgender athletes in public schools from competing in sporting matches, sports matching their gender identity, and instead forcing them to participate in leagues matching the gender in which they were assigned at birth. And see, there's a lot of concern and talk around this subject for what, for my opinion, seems to not matter at all. And it kind of highlights how obsessed some of the states like Texas are about sports. The one thing I had heard is that there was a similar Florida bill that would then require genital inspections of these children participating in high school and junior high to prove their gender. It's like, all right, so you've made a way worse solution than the problem ever could have possibly been. Which, honestly, if you can cross-dress and pretend to be the other gender, and people let you and you can pass, I suppose, then you deserve to be able to cheat that way. Inherently, the solution here is so easy. It's just get rid of gendered sports and let the marbles fall where they will. As far as, yeah, a significant percentage of girls may not be able to out wrestle boys and may lose all their matches, and it might lead to the inclusion of more barred holds or increasing the moveset in wrestling. And at a certain point, just get rid of wrestling is my solution to that, and they don't want to do that. Get rid of all these athletic things. They're so stupid. But to bring this back to video games, like, yeah, this is, I have to say, Gearbox is probably falling on the right side of history, whether they're doing it for legitimate concerns or for just SJW points
Mother, father.
on that one. But
A pointed sword deserves a pointed
there is certainly, I think, an argument that a lot of state legislatures and city and county governments do also pass a whole bunch of BS laws just to get votes for themselves and to inspire their bases, and they do very little as far as helpful, useful legislating, to the point where there is eventually, I think, going to be a point where it doesn't make sense for states in their own way to exist. They only exist in the United States because it was the only way to form the United States at the beginning, but over the hundreds of years that the U.S., a few hundred years that the U.S. has existed, more and more power has been handed over to the federal government to make any big decisions or do anything, and it is just a whole bunch of busy work that the lower governments really focus on, and some stuff probably should be run by the lower governments, but I'm not sure I fully agree. Like, if the entire water system was one big water company run by the U.S. federal government, maybe water would be cleaner and safer and better. If the entire electric grid was run by one government-run electric company, maybe it would be cleaner, better, and cheaper. Like, generally, the idea of capitalism is that the economy of scale does improve things, not make them worse. So I don't know why that same concept would not be applied to governance. And sure, there's governmental waste, but I think it's worse when you have 4 or 5 different tiers and levels of governments that are not really accountable to anybody and nobody is really watching. I'd assume that the city and county governments are way more wasteful than the federal government is, with the exception of the military, which is just always given a free pass.
I'm coming. Detestable. 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 Detestable.
Anyways, we need to hurry up. Here we have a game on Steam called Kacha's Abyss and Tactics, which looks to me like it is a tactical position placement game, turn-based game. I don't think there's enough here to interest me. $9.89, English only. Turn-based tactics game with puzzle graphics, or pixel graphics. And if I could read. Let's see. We could bury something. We could draw a card. Let's go and bury something.
Lots of balls, but make it fashion.
And then I guess I'll roll that. I guess I am just looking for wins for no good reason. Here's TechRaptor. Nutaku announces Brazzers the game. Brazzers the game. I don't know if it's Brazzers or Brazzers. I think it's Brazzers. Which, yeah, it doesn't look like it's particularly good. Looks like they've just taken some model's face and put it on a terribly drawn animated girl's body. Yep. Uninteresting. And that is the problem with most Nutaku games, is that they are uninteresting. Here we have a game on Steam called Bojo, which looks like it's a dropper style game with neon blocks.
Activate.
59 cents, whole bunch of languages. Yeah, I don't think anything there works. See, Gamatsu has a job listing for Ringtail Games as a user experience, user interface artist in Stockholm, Sweden, if that interests you. Here we have a game on Steam called Haywire, which looks like a very, very old platformer shooter type game. It's new, but it looks like an old game. $2.99, English only. Yeah, that's not gonna sell me. Interesting. Gamasutra describes Outriders. People Can Fly as the developers of Outriders, which I guess may be a newer game they worked on. But, you know, I'm fairly certain they worked on Bulletstorm. Made that game. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Do I want to evolve this? Or do I want to just end a turn? I guess I'll just put it on the field. Next game is tag sexual content, so let me just double check. It's YouTube family friendly. Yeah, here we have a game on Steam called Colorado Cocoa Club, which seems to be a group of lesbians in a snow lodge, which you don't see a lot of romance or adult games in snow lodges, or stories in general around snow lodges. English only. I'll put it on the follow list, see if people like it. Yeah, I kind of feel like just less people are around the idea, are familiar with the idea of a snow lodge in the first place, or since most of the visual novels are Japanese anyways, there aren't really snow lodges as much as there are hot springs, which is slightly different in how things would look and feel.
A bear a day keeps the doctor away.
Should have healed myself. See, TechRaptor has an article here. Boomerang X is pure gravity-defying action bliss, which it looks a little bit blurry. Apparently, Boomerang X is not out yet either. Okay. Do that. And then do that. And then do that. And I think we're in the turn there. Here we have a game on Steam called Neo Zero, which looks like nothing. $5.99 English only. Next we have a game on Steam called Key to Heaven, which is not interesting either. Free to play, whole bunch of languages, allegedly full audio in all of them. Yeah, I don't think so. Here we have Nier Replicant, and I think at this point there's kind of no argument at all to not just have this on the wish list. You can see 79% of the positive We're not hearing major complaints as far as the PC version porting and playing badly. So yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and put that on the wish list. Now there is some problems I think with trying to play Nier Replicant, where I might very well decide to have a bit of a walkthrough already available to see if I was going to play it, and try my best to go through it as fast as possible, because there is some grindiness I think to Nier Replicant being a remaster of an old game, and then one of the things is just no fast travel, and running around in fairly empty areas doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think Nier Automata fixed a lot of those problems, but even then, Nier Automata is a very long game if you are going to get into the depth of it and have a realistic experience. If you're just going to rush to the first ending you get in Nier Replicant or Nier Automata, then you're going to miss out on a lot of content. There's like 26 different endings in Nier Automata. I wouldn't be surprised if there's nearly as many in Replicant too. Let's see. Gamether has Scarlet Nexus Battle Highlight gameplay for Hospital Museum. We may have already talked about this, but maybe not. Yep. And this is another JRPG. Looks interesting. It still really is a catch-22 though. Would you want to play something new that may not catch on, or would you rather play something proven like Nier Replicant and play something older because of that? Because it is proven. Here we have a game on Steam called Crazy Race. And I think we'll give it at most 30 more minutes and then we'll call it a day. This looks like nothing for 59 cents. A asset flip racing game with maybe 2 cars and a soccer ball to break into, to crash into. Let's see. Here we have a game called Virtua Creatures, which looks like it's a Tamagotchi clone, where this idea might have worked 10 years ago. It's a little too late now, certainly. Free to play, I guess, is the right price, but then in-app purchases is not the right way to go. English only. At the very least, that's a somewhat unique concept being implemented instead of just doing another slide puzzle game or something along that line. At least your game is a little bit differentiated that way. Here we have a game called Alone in the Office, which is just a horror asset flip game. $5.99 English Russian. We haven't even been seeing that many Russian games these days compared to the Chinese games. Here we have the Ludo Narracon supporter pack featuring Cyrano, which I'm not sure that there really is enough of a game here, more than they just want you to give them $7 to support Ludo Narracon, which is not a convention I think that really deserves to exist or is really solving a real problem. The idea and the concept of a Ludo narrative dissonance was literally made up by one journalist, video game journalist, and I don't think it's fully really identifying an issue that people and players were having a lot of. It's too detailed and too simple, too easy of a bow to wrap a lot of game development flaws around, and to try and make the claim that, oh, the reason why your game is bad is not because of the dozens or hundreds of mistakes you made while developing it. It's just because you're creating a ludonarrative dissonance, which usually that's not even a big deal. Like, I should explain what ludonarrative dissonance is. Basically, you're playing a video game, you go in a room, you hand-to-hand combat, kill hundreds of enemies, and don't take a scratch. You walk through the next door, there's a cutscene, and you get punched in the nose by a low-level enemy and then captured and taken to prison, and you barely even put up a fight. The idea there is there's a difference between how the character feels when you're playing it versus the way when you're telling a story. Usually it is also the exact opposite direction there, where you're struggling to win a fight against a low-level character when you're actually controlling the character, and then when a cutscene happens, the character is super powerful and super successful at defeating large groups of enemies. Let's see. Here we have a game called No Plan B Prologue. We've started to see a dying down of the prologues and the demos again, which is good. This looks like a low polygon, squad-based SWAT type game, but it seems like it's turn-based really, and I don't think that there's probably enough of a game here. In general though, if I was going to be interested in this, I would go to its website and just put that on the follow list, I suppose. There is an argument for making a new SWAT style game, since the last SWAT style games that were live action games. But also, a lot of that comes down to whether or not SWAT is looked at upon by the general game playing audience as the good guys or the bad guys. In a lot of ways, the police, special SWAT teams or otherwise, are showing themselves to be the bad guys a lot of times, or being put in the light of being the bad guys a lot of times. So there may not be a lot of desire there. Alright, I can see the beginning of the end, so theoretically this is where I would stop on Friday, but I kind of need to continue today because, yeah, these links do seem to go in reverse chronological order, which makes sense in most cases, but doesn't really work in my case. So these are the oldest games. Here we have Haunted Hotel Eternity Collector's Edition, which is a Big Fish Games horror game, hidden object game. $12.59 English full audio. We have about 20 more tabs. Here we have Dark Chronicles: The Soul Reaver from HH Games, so that'll probably be about $6. $5.39, which, yeah, feels like HH Games is just going to try and release a game right at the same time Big Fish Games does and undercut them, which is not a bad plan. Attack there. See. Next we have a game called Cauldrons of War Stalingrad, which looks like it has some real footage, but looks like it's just a mostly text-based strategy game, for lack of a better term, board tabletop game. $8.49 English and French. If this guy wins, he's gonna deserve that victory. Here we have a game on Steam called Wild Wild Chess, which seems to just be a chessboard with cowboys playing. $1.49 English only. I don't feel like it's single player only too. That's weird. I don't feel like even if the graphics do look fairly well, I don't feel like there's a reason to buy this specific table instead of just Tabletop Simulator.
So long as there is light.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Blake the Visual Novel, which looks like a Western visual novel going for more of a comic book art style. It's coming out July 14th. I don't know why somebody linked me to it. I'm looking at the video. I guess we're gonna have to play one more game and keep the streak going and see if we can get another victory while we're going through these games, because this will take a while. Here we have a game on Steam called Miracle World, which looks like it's just a clone tool, rubber stamp tool of creating a world. We're calling it a strategy farming sim. $4.19 English and Chinese. Yeah, I don't think there's really a game there. Next we have a game called Dark Sheep, which looks very pixely, very boring for $2.69. They're comparing it to Lorelei and Limbo, which, yeah, I should have a lot more hours on Limbo and a lot less hours on Lorelei. I left that running, obviously. Did not put 150 hours into playing Lorelei. It's not that long of a game. Next we have a game on Steam, SJ19 Learns to Love, which looks like a weird title for a platformer shooter. Just pixely graphics. It's just the wrong kind of graphics for that type of game. Kind of feels like it might be a Metroidvania too. $5.94, English only. Yeah, just the wrong design. Next we have Power Washer Hero. I think we may have already talked about this game. Yeah, I can't really imagine, if you were into power washing, that this would really satisfy doing it virtually. $2.99 English only. Really, this just feels like a meme joke game. Next we have a game called Ultra Bushwick. I may have talked about some of these games, actually. That's a possibility. It's just a whole bunch of neon colors. I can't even tell what kind of game it is. Apparently it's a twin stick shooter top-down game for $4.99 English only. Yeah, but looking at the screenshots, I couldn't really tell you for sure that that's what was going on. Okay. Let's do this.
Some heavy scriptures.
And then end the turn. Yeah, we already talked about that. Almost certainly we already talked about Atelier Frios, the Alchemist, and the Mistress Journey DX, which I'll put down on the follow list. One of the other older Atelier games, but not that old. It still looks very playable. Although the DX version might be an improvement on the graphics slightly. Can I do 3 damage to everybody and save myself, or should I do this?
To the zenith, for there I will rise.
Now, do I want to evolve here? And then also Atlair and Liddy and Sueli are here. So we can put that on the fall list too. This too does not seem like it's terrible
So I
looking.
said, I will rise again.
And then we have Atlair Sophie, and this is the one that's mixed. Which 2 out of 3 is probably not that bad. And all these graphics still look decent. Now I really wonder if perhaps these are cutscenes and the actual gameplay is something closer to this.
Now the fight begins.
I'd like to know why this one's mixed. See if we can find a negative review in English. Neither the DX trilogy nor the original versions are the end-all be-all versions. This has got new outfits and dialogue and such you might want, but also a graphical downgrade. Check out the discussions for details. There's a lot that looks terrible compared to the original versions. If you already own the original versions of the trilogy or you have to have a Switch, you can buy the DX versions on. I'd probably stay away from the Steam versions unless things are fixed. Not recommended for low graphic quality, and that must be the only... Nobody else is complaining about that. Not looking at their screenshots, it doesn't look that bad. But I could see people being upset for several different reasons. Okay. Finally. Then next we have a game on Steam called Avoid the Demons, which looks like garbage. For 84 cents.
You're through.
Then here we have a game called Musketeer of Hell, but then it's in a jail cell that looks like an asset flip with an automatic guns. Yeah, this does just seem like it is asset flipping for many different locations, many different guns, many different enemies. $5.34, several languages. See, even the concept of like time splitters, which was doing that same idea where it was a whole bunch of different levels because they were just kind of asset flipping, although arguably time splitters may have not been asset flipping or just instead just flipping generic ideas, which is a weird claim to make certainly, but that's probably the closest way to describe it, is they were taking very generic first-person shooter ideas to make generic first-person shooter levels. But even that series, which had some success, really probably wouldn't have any success in modern time, and that's more than likely why we haven't really seen any time splitters games tried to be made, or anything like that, where you're jumping around to different locations and different times and fighting different enemies. Let's see. Next we have a game called The Unending War Grand Strategy Chess. So this does not look like chess at all. It's $11.24, English only. See, now I'm back to daily missions, so I could theoretically play daily missions, but I'm not going to. Let's see, next we have Yo-Yo Monkey Adventure, which this is just a frustration platformer using clinging abilities and climbing, kind of a mount your friends type game. $3.19, English and Chinese. Next we have a game on Steam called Smelter, which looks like it's a platformer taking place maybe in an alternate universe of Adam and Eve. Oh yeah, we'd seen this before and it's already on the following list, and I guess technically now it does have 30 user reviews, but I'll give it a little bit more time. This girl in the green bikini falls down a hole and She then kind of transforms into this armored, bikini-laden pixel character that you're actually going to play as. And then it is a platformer, kind of Mega Man style game with Super Mario Bros. 3 type level layouts. So it looks like it has a decent amount of stuff or ideas going for it. And the animation does certainly feel like it is somebody actually trying. Next we have a game called Eviron's Chronicles, which looks like a collectible card game. Let's see, free to play, within that purchases English and Russian. I'm a sucker for CCG, so I'll put it on the follow list, but I think this art is stolen. I've seen something very similar to it, at least, and it really is just going to come down to player base. That being tagged as an MMO is probably inaccurate, but whatever. Next, we have a game on Steam called Vylan, V-Y-L-A-N, which just looks like black and white platforming. $4.49, English only. Nothing there of interest. And then we have Dimensions Industry. Demon and then dimensions merged together. There's Lego here for kind of no reason. And Minecraft. Survival elements. Not really seeing any demons though in the game. Early access $17.99. Let's see. I think in part getting a footstool has only encouraged me to shift my foot around more, which is probably good. But it is distracting too. Here we have a game called Tower Ball, which looks like it's a cell phone game of some sort. Kind of like a shoot 'em up chaos game from the looks of it, kind of tower defense like. Free to play with in-app purchases. Nothing visually appeals there. Next we have Devil Slayer Raksasi, which is it an RPG? Is it a top-down twin stick shooter? It says it's an action roguelike, but it looks like it's top-down. Well, we've got some positive reviews here, so I can't ignore that. So I'll have to put it on the follow list. And I imagine if I sat and watched one of these videos, I might see actual gameplay, and that might be a higher selling point. Yeah. It kind of feels like it might be slightly Demon Souls-ish, in which you're trying to take out enemies one-on-one slowly instead of large groups of people. And that is trying something different, I would say, than what we normally see in a top-down twin-stick shooter, where you're just shooting hundreds and hundreds of creatures or enemies. And see, this might be an argument for a sword hack and slash type game, to have a whole bunch of different weapons and enemies and really focus on the gameplay from a top-down perspective. Here we have Small Town Terrors, Galdor's Bluff Collector's Edition. This is from Gunner Games, so maybe not $13? Yeah, $6.39, much cheaper than the Big Fish games. You can actually get a 2-pack apparently for $9.28. Although, I don't know how I'd ever justify playing any more hidden object games. Next, we have a game on Steam called Orbital Bullet, the 360 roguelike, which, interesting idea, where you're wrapping around in a circle shooting with several different areas. So how do you go up up and down between different platforms would be my question. Most roguelikes do require the development of different levels, and by just having this 360 gimmick, it then saves you a lot of effort, but you still have to design kind of enemy positions unless that's randomized, and if that is the case, then that's going to kind of suck in the gameplay where you get a bunch of cheap deaths. I'm going to put this on the fall list though. You've taken one gimmick and combined it with a roguelike, which is a much better known gimmick. As one of the things about pinball in general is that really, if you combine two good gimmicks and good gameplay, you've got a great pinball concept going. Next, we have a game on Steam called Paleon, P-A-L-E-O-N, which looks just like it's a survival strategy city builder. Colony Sim is what it's tagged as. $8.99 English and Russian. And then we've got a game called Stone River, which looks like garbage. Dark Screenshot Syndrome, which I haven't had to complain about that too much lately either. $24.99, incredibly expensive. Alright. And then Steam did release the top releases for March, so they're highlighting Home Sweet Home Survive, which is this a multiplayer focused game? I hadn't even heard it. And then Emergency Call 112, the Firefighting Simulation 2, which you can see is mixed. Actually, this game is mixed too. Ranch Simulator, which apparently is very positive. Evil Genius 2, which is mixed. Carnal Instinct, which is mostly positive. Stronghold Warlords, which is mixed. In Zone and World Apart. The Bus, which is very positive. Dorfram Montic, which is overwhelmingly positive. Yakuza 6 Song of Life. Subverse, which is the adult game, which is very positive. And what I had heard, there was some complaints about Subverse just not having enough adult content in it or enough gameplay content in it. And yet it's being rated very positive, so I guess the audience generally liked it. Out of the Park Baseball, Mr. Prepper, which is very positive. I was thinking about maybe playing that. And then EZONR, it's some kind of rhythm game, anime rhythm game. Team Fight Manager is very positive. Lust from Beyond is very positive. Interesting. Let's see. The Tenants is very positive. Loop Hero, still very positive. Kind of had forgotten that game even existed. It Takes Two is overwhelmingly positive. Interesting. Well, that really goes to show how useless Giant Bomb's review really is if they don't like It Takes Two, because clearly people playing the game and that actually paid for it did. And see, that is the top 20. We could look at like the top free-to-play ones. My Singing Monster, Super Mecha Champions, College Kings Act 1, Another Eden, Guardian Chronicle, Top Early Access, Ezon Reboot, In Zone, Subverse, Ranch Sim, The Bus, Home Sweet Home, Carnal Instinct. These are all kind of the same games. And then they have a category for building mechanic games this month, because I guess that's the category that just lines up more. And then a category for reality based, but these aren't any newer groups of games. It's just the same games over and over again, which is fair enough, I suppose, that there really is no reason why the top 20 list shouldn't just be the top 20 list. And certainly that feels like they spent less time in the development of that list than they have in the past, and that's probably fine, because of the truth of it is there's probably not that many people that are even going to see this list. And I don't think there's really a good argument that you should take whatever the top 20 sellers are as the list of games you should buy. I hope that sale is still going on, because I wanted to highlight that Black Mesa Definitive Edition is $9.99 right now on Steam. That is something. A game called Cloud Meadow from 2020 that seems to be furries as an adult game is on sale for $16.99. Where Subliminal is down to $13.99. That's a pretty good deal. Game called Carnage Chronicles for VR. Rad is $4.99, which is probably the right price for that. Unfortunately, I think the sale I was looking for is already gone, which is a shame, because there was something interesting as far as the background art during one of the most recent sales for, I believe, Koei Tecmo games, in that they had tried really, really hard to make the back art stand out and look good and look very nicely polished, where most of the background art on Steam is just solid blue, maybe subtly something slightly different than the solid blue. But this was actual characters. Let's see. VR RPG here called Carnage Chronicles. Yeah, this actually looks like a game. It's VR, but I'll put it on the fall list because it's very positive. If anything, that might make a good marker point to stop following some of the worser VR games. Here's one I saw. Governor of Poker 3 is being promoted, which, I mean, problem here is it's got in-app purchases, so it's free to play, but you're gonna end up buying something, whether you are playing with real money and buying more chips with in-app purchases, or whether you're just buying a whole bunch of costumes and outfits. But if this is being promoted and it's mostly positive, then this might be the poker game to consider. Let me see. Loads of free chips, options every few hours. Yeah, I have a negative rigged. Yeah, a negative review says it's rigged somewhat, which that's not something you want to hear. Yeah, Loop Hero, very positive, 90%, 94% overall positive. This game is on my wish list, but also kind of forgotten about as a game. The Tenants is 87% positive, which it looks like it is just a Sims clone, which in all fairness, if this comes out of early access and it beats Sims, then I would be much happier to spotlight the Tenants instead of the Sims 4 with its thousands of dollars of DLC. Lust from Beyond I won't show, but because of the nudity in it, but it is 84% positive. So yeah, at that point, it is worth buying. When did I get Lust from Darkness? Apparently I have that in my library. I don't remember actually buying that game. And I have no idea how I'm going to play that game. There's also a game called The Beast Inside that they're bundling with it, which is just a horror game without the adult content. And that's also on my wish list. Interesting. Well, it'll be an interesting time if I can ever find the free time to figure out how I could play Lust from Darkness and show it on my channel in any way whatsoever. Next we have Team Fight Manager, which is a management game, obviously. So, yeah, I couldn't think that I'd be interested in this, even though it is being well received. It's $9.99. It also kind of highlights something that I am still missing some games because I have not heard of that game. I also hadn't heard of this game, EZ2 on Reboot R, which from the looks of it seems to be a random assortment of animated characters in some kind of rhythm game. We've seen this on other rhythm games too, where you have like a rhythm game like this and that's the main core gameplay mechanic, but then they will throw in some kind of cool footage in the background and tie it into some kind of J-pop animation character, some kind of avatar of some sort. And that would explain the wide variety in the animation styles. This is early access English, Japanese, and Korean. I wonder why people aren't liking it. Right now, can't even open the game. There's no reason that the game requires an always on internet things. If the servers don't work, maybe consider not having always online DRM for a single player game. Network problems. That's why people don't like it. Here we have Mr. Prepper, which is 83% positive with over 1,000 reviews, so there's no reason not to put that on the wish list now. I imagine with the pandemic, a lot of people have become more prepper focused. I feel like I have been a little bit more prepper focused, where I just stuck my toe in it before. I'm trying to actually implement some thoughts now. You know, Yakuza 6 Song of Life is already on the wish list, and it's 93% positive. We had already seen that one. Here's that game Dorf Romantik, which seems to be a strategy game, hex grid, but seemingly overwhelmingly positive. So as soon as it comes out of early access, I think I'm willing to do that. Seems like what you're doing is you've got this big old stack of types of lands and you're trying to place the lands in the best orientation. Here we have the bus, which is very positive. I think the problem with this is it is just a simulation of driving a bus though, and I'm just not interested in that. Although the people who are seem to be very interested in it. Early access, $24.99, that's really expensive. Here we have Carnal Instinct, which is tagged with sexual content. Wow, I was not expecting that. There's a centaur guy with the start off, which is true, which would be accurate for any centaur. There's a cheetah girl with just a hat. And then there's like a monster, a female monster mounting another, I think, female monster in a weird angle. Interesting. So it's an adult RPG, which unlike the Subverse, which was set in space, this is more of a furryverse set in a like Egyptian type world. It's a green tentacle goo monster. Yeah, there are some straight up uncensored images here. Yeah, and I was just breezing by like the nipples because it's like a lot of reptile ladies with nipples, and I'm like, oh yeah, I suppose that's nipples I'm saying, but it didn't even register. And then the actively goo covered phallus being shown threw me for a loop. Well, Carnal Instinct is pre-alpha. Overall, of the 356 user reviews, it's at 78% positive. It's down to 66% positive in the last 30 days. So, for people into that kind of roleplay, I think there might be some chance of success there. Again, a game that I have no way I could cover that on YouTube. And I don't know how I'd even really criticize a game like that, because at a certain point it stops becoming art and it starts becoming utilitarian. And if you're trying to criticize video games, you generally want to have to think of them as mostly art and not something for any specific purpose other than entertainment. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Ranch Simulator, which is apparently a multiplayer ranch simulator, which seems weird because it really feels like it's only a step away from being a compound simulator, where you would start your weird cult. Apparently people find it very positive though. Or of the 1,856 reviews, it's 81% positive. Early access, bunch of languages, $19.99. I don't know if I could find something interesting here. It does seem like you have to shoot off bears and wild animals and build, but I will put it on the fall list to give it a chance since it's just so different. And then we have the Home Sweet Home Survive game, which I never did figure out if this was based on a Home Sweet Home comic or the Netflix Home Sweet Home series. I think it probably is based on the Netflix Home Sweet Home series, which may be based on an anime or a manga or comic. Let's see, 63% of this are positive in early access. English and Thai. Unfair game for survivors. Your fate is based on the luck in a chest. You can't heal friends. Resurrection has problems. Yep, a lot of negative reviews here. A lot of negative reviews. So there's a passion to it. I guess inherently for this game it doesn't matter though, because it's an online co-op game with in-app purchases, so I wouldn't play it anyways. But yeah, that is interesting that a significant amount of the games that came out this month were mixed reviewed or mixed reviewed at best. So people really did not have a great month for games this May. Alright, so now I'm going to look at my news and try and wrap up as we are 3 hours and 30 minutes into the stream. The Epic Games Store apparently says they were aware that offline mode was not working for some games. They're investigating. Then a minute ago they said they've resolved the issue. Raven Software is looking for Warzone exploitable spots on the map that allows players to reach. Oh no, they're looking into the fact that there are some exploitable spots on the map that allow players to reach areas that are normally inaccessible. Not that they're looking for people to find those exploitable spots. Which that would be an interesting thing for somebody to come out and say directly, is just like, we're looking for people to break our game for us. so that we know where to work and where to fix it. Very rarely does the patch team not have a list of things already that they need to work on. See, Gamasutra has an article. Today's iPhone update brings tighter privacy rules on the iOS in-app advertising, which probably keeps more of it under Apple's control. Apple did come out with a new MacBook of some sort that probably still won't have any kind of gaming element or powerhouse to it, so I doubt we'll see a big swift or a big influx of Mac-based games. In a weird way, we're probably on the verge of losing a lot of Mac compatibility as far as games on Steam if Apple pushes everybody to run their newest code and gets rid of support for older code. Or if Apple pushed everybody to sell games only through their own store in a walled garden way. But yeah, Mac gaming hasn't been a thing that actually mattered at all for decades. The Apple II is probably the last time that playing Myst or a game like Myst on Apple II was probably the last time that gaming mattered at all on an Apple computer. They did have some interesting find your lost key tags they introduced, which seem to have some slightly better technology in them, but they also still seem to be a little too expensive for regular usage, like tile clones basically, where ideally you would want those kinds of devices to be $2 at most, and they're like $20. And you'd also like them to work on a technology that is better than what it is. Apparently what's on Steam is also glitched because the last game what's on Steam came out with was over 3 hours ago. So it's not really believable that no games came out on Steam in the last 3 hours. So, but that will, I suppose, let us wrap up. And since we're not doing the Humble Bundle anymore, I closed that tab. Then we won't have to deal with that. So the only new article we have here is a review for a game called Insurmountable, which looks like it's a card-based game of some sort, climbing game, as far as I can tell. The TechRaptor gives it an 8.0. Insurmountable is definitely a hidden gem of a game, one that proves the right mix of challenge and fun for a player's delight. Pros, solid challenge based on the premise. Cons, awkward visual aesthetic and minimalistic music. Pros, great use of risk reward system, which may be a little too random at times. Decent replay value, more tactical than it looks. And this is yet another game, though, that they're reviewing that isn't out, apparently. Otherwise, there would be a link somewhere here to Steam or whatever storefront it was on. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a